All right, so let's get right into it. Imagine this. You're the new head of the IRS. It's your very first time in front of a congressional hearing. You've got your talking points ready, all about a new tax law. But it turns out the lawmakers there, they have something completely different they want to talk about, and it is way more explosive.
And that question from Representative Mike Thompson pretty much set the tone for the whole day. I mean, he was not holding back at all. Right out of the gate, the new IRS chief, a guy named Frank Bisignano, is immediately on the defensive. So yeah, this was definitely not your warm, friendly welcome to the job.
And wow, what a first hearing it turned out to be. This was Frank Bisignano's big debut, his first time in front of the House Ways and Means Committee since he got the CEO job back in October. He thought he was there to talk about how the agency's doing. Instead, he walked right into a political firefight.
And this is where you can just see the total disconnect. On one side, you have Bisignano all ready to chat about the new tax law. Things like getting rid of taxes on tips, launching new savings accounts, that kind of stuff. But on the other side, a bunch of Democratic lawmakers just completely blew past that agenda. They were laser-focused on something they saw as way more urgent, this growing scandal about the IRS unlawfully sharing taxpayer data with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE.
So what is this all about, right? Why were these lawmakers so fired up? Well, it all boils down to this data sharing agreement and a very, very big number of privacy violations that came with it.
See, at the core of this whole thing is an agreement that was signed last April between the Treasury and Homeland Security. And what it did, basically, was give ICE the green light to sift through immigrant tax records. The whole point was to find and deport people. I mean, this deal was so controversial that the last acting IRS commissioner actually resigned over it. That's how big of a deal it was.
And here it is, the number that's fueling all this outrage. A federal judge just found that because of this agreement, the IRS illegally disclosed confidential taxpayer info, get this, 42,695 times. No, that's not a typo. We're talking about tens of thousands of people whose private financial data was just handed over unlawfully.
And if you look at the timeline, you can see just how fast this all blew up. So the agreement gets signed last April. Then, in October, Frank Bisignano comes in as the new CEO. Fast forward to just last month, and a judge rules the whole data sharing thing was illegal. And bam, all of that leads straight to this hearing where the new guy has to answer for it all. So, okay, the full weight of this scandal is now on his shoulders. How in the world did the new IRS chief handle this barrage of questions?
Well, this was pretty much his main defense. Bisignano kept saying over and over that all of this went down before he took the job. The agreement was signed, the data was shared, it all happened before his time. He also mentioned that there was ongoing litigation, so he pretty much dodged any direct questions about who was held accountable or about that huge number of disclosures.
But to be fair, he didn't just deflect. While he was crystal clear that the past wasn't on him, he did say that, going forward, it was his job to fix things. He basically framed it as, okay, it's my responsibility now to get it right from here on out.
The lawmakers, though? Yeah, they weren't buying it. For them, this wasn't just about when one guy started his job. This was about the integrity of the entire agency. We're talking about a huge, massive breach of public trust.
And Representative Susan Delbini, I think, really nailed the mood in the room. From her point of view, just saying it happened before I got here doesn't cut it. She called it a catastrophic leadership failure and pointed out that it's a huge hit to the public's confidence in the IRS. And let's be real, that's an agency that needs public trust to even function.
And believe it or not, the data sharing thing wasn't even the only point of conflict. Democrats were also grilling Bisignano about the IRS's decision to cut union contracts. For instance, Representative Richard Neal argued that this whole move just makes it easier to, in his words, take apart the IRS. But Bisignano, he pushed back hard. He said that federal employees already have better benefits by law than any union could give them, that they were losing nothing. It was just one more tense moment in a hearing that was pretty much nonstop friction.
So after all that back and forth, the angry questions, the careful answers, where does that leave us? Well, as you can probably guess, this whole thing is a long way from being resolved. For the time being, the courts have actually stepped in. So while all these legal challenges are making their way through the system, there are a couple of preliminary court orders in place. And what they do is block any more of these massive data transfers. And, really importantly, they also stop ICE from acting on any of the IRS data they already got their hands on. So the whole program is essentially on ice, for now. And all of this just leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? When a government agency like the IRS breaks the law and violates the privacy of tens of thousands of people, where does the buck stop? Is it with the person who was in charge when it happened? Is it the new leader who has to clean up the mess? Or is this a much deeper, systemic problem that goes beyond any one individual? It's a tough one, and there's definitely no easy answer.